In the stillness of ancient tales, a name resounds, soft as a prayer, heavy as eternity. The Holy Grail. What is this vessel, its gleam stitched into a tapestry of time? Is it a cup kissed by the divine, or is it a vision, a fleeting light that hovers just beyond mortal grasp? When whispers speak of the Grail, they stir not for gold nor glory, but for a mystery that binds earth to heaven, the fleeting to the divine. It is no mere relic, but a question etched deep into our soul. What do we truly seek when we chase the eternal? From the cloisters of faith to the mist-clad hills of legend, the Grail beckons, its form veiled, its truth a flame that time cannot quench. It is the echo of a promise, the weight of a quest calling the heart to wander beyond the known into the sacred unknown where longing touches grace. In a dimly lit chamber beneath Jerusalem's twilight, a cup rested in weathered hands, simple in form, infinite in weight. As the Last Supper, Christ raised it, his voice a solemn tide. This is my blood of the covenant, poured out for many. The Gospels, Matthew's fervor, Mark's stark brevity, Luke's tender grace, preserve this moment when bread and wine became the axis of salvation. John, silent on the cup, speaks instead of sacrifice, of a lamb who would bleed to redeem the world. This vessel, perhaps fashioned from clay or wood, bore no regal ornament, yet within it the divine was poured. Through it the Eucharist was born, a rite not of ritual alone, but of covenant, binding the faithful to God's eternal promise. And then, what became of it? Did it linger in the trembling hands of the disciples, awestruck by its sanctity? Or was it lost among the chaos that followed, swallowed by the shadows of Golgotha? Scripture is silent. The vessel vanishes into mystery, its fate unspoken, its presence a whisper that echoes still. Here lies the Grail's genesis, in a final meal where heaven touched the earth, but the ordinary became eternal. A moment passed down, not in stone or steel, but in spirit. A question left in every heart that seeks the sacred. From the grief-carved wood of the cross, a figure emerged into a legend. Joseph of Arimathea, the disciple who claimed the body of the Christ. In apocryphal echoes, the Gospel of Nicodemus, and later, Robert the Boron's Joseph the Arimathea. He is cast as the Grail's first guardian. They say he stood under the crucified Savior, holding the cup beneath his wounds, catching the blood as it fell, each drop a crimson seal of redemption. The vessel, now touched by divinity and sacrifice, was no longer just sacred. It became radiant, perilous, and holy. Some say Joseph bore it west, far from Jerusalem's upheaval, to a land shrouded in mist and myth. Britain. To Glastonbury, where thorns bloomed in memory of the cross. The Vita Bellini and the Law of Avalon entwined the Grail with Britain's soil, a sacred relic hidden from unworthy eyes, guarded in silence. As centuries passed, the Grail shed its earthly frame, no longer just a cup. It became a symbol of purity, of salvation, and of the unending quest that stirs the soul. Myth turned it luminous, unattainable, aflamed with meaning. It was now something more, not merely to be held, but to be sought. A beacon calling pilgrims, knights, poets, and mystics to follow the longing that lives beneath reason, to the realm where grace still waits, veiled yet vivid at the edge of the world. In the twilight of Britain's mythic age, where mist clung to ancient oaks, and Camelot's towers gleamed in fading splendor, the Holy Grail rose from relic to radiant enigma. No longer merely a cup of sacred blood, it became the heart of a quest that stirred the soul, a beacon flickering in the dust of a dying realm. In Arthur's court, where knights swore oaths beneath vaulted hills, the Grail wove in silent spell, transforming chivalry into pilgrimage. It first appeared in the verses of Courtois de Troyes. In his story of the Grail, a naive knight stumbles into a desolate castle and beholds a procession, a bleeding lance, a radiant maiden, and a vessel, unnamed, hovering between object and omen. Its glow speaks without words. Courtois left the tale unfinished, the Grail's nature unresolved. Was it the cup of Christ, or a stranger's sanctity? A vision of nourishment not only for the knight, but for a wounded world. Ambiguity birthed myth. A seed took root that would reshape the spiritual imagination of the West. Wolfram von Eichenbach Parzival, a generation later, deepened the mystery. The Grail, now no simple chalice, became a stone or vessel infused with divine light, guarded in Mount Salvage by a sacred brotherhood. Parzival's journey was not won with the sword, but tempered through humility. His trials became sacraments. Only through compassion could he draw near the Grail's light. In Wolfram's hands, the quest was no longer for an object, it was for an awakening. Prowess must bow. Only grace could reveal the Grail. From these roots bloomed the Grail Knights, Galahad, born sinless, chosen from the start. In the quest del Saint Graal, he alone achieves the vision, his soul ascending in its glow. Percival, stumbling through failure, finds redemption in persistence. His delayed questions unlock the healing of the land. Bors, faithful and quiet, bears witness through steadfast heart. Each knight mirrors a fragment of the soul's struggle. Their paths unfold across the wastelands of a fractured kingdom, and each step reveals the Grail's true demand, not triumph, but transformation. Within these legends, the Grail becomes a crucible, a test of purity, a sign of divine favor, and a fire that burned away pride. It offered healing, but only through surrender. The Grail was never just a goal. It was always the cost of grace, the weight of the sacred laid upon mortal hearts. From Arthur's golden halls to the desolate plains where hope flickered dim, the Grail reshaped the very meaning of knighthood. It was no longer enough to be brave. One had to be pure. One had to be broken open. And still, the Grail remained just beyond reach, its light beckoning, its truth unbearable. Who among us could bear its radiance? Who could turn from its call? In myth, he became the eternal pursuit, not for power, not for glory, but for the sacred, hidden just beyond the veil, waiting to be found by those who walked, not with might, but with mercy. Across the centuries, the Holy Grail drew not only pilgrims and poets, but kings, orders, and empires, each seduced by its promise, each ensnared by ambition. Once a vessel of grace, it becomes a phantom of power, its divine light warped into a prize for those who dared to seize the sacred. But in every grasping hand, a truth emerged. When men seek to possess the divine, its purity fractures, veiled in the madness of conquest. In the cloistered shadows of the 12th century, the Knights Templar rose, warrior monks marked by the Crimson Cross. Guardians of Christendom, their wealth and mystery birthed legends that they held the Grail secreted beneath Jerusalem or hidden vaults of Paris. Chroniclers like Walter Map whispered of their sacred burden, their sudden fall in 1307 shrouded in rumors of heresy and relics cursed. Were they the true keepers of the cup, or did the silence of their martyrdom merely feed the myth? Centuries later, a darker force turned its gaze to the Grail. In the 20th century, Nazi Germany, enthralled by occultism, sought to bend the sacred to empire. Heinrich Himmler's Ananoby, a twisted blend of scholars and mystics, scoured Europe for relics. Otto Rahn hunted the Cathar ruins of Montségur, chasing whispers of a hidden grail. To the Nazis, this was no emblem of grace, but a talisman to crown their dominion. Their pursuit profaned the sacred, seeking to sanctify supremacy. Yet, in their failure, amid the smoldering wreckage of war, the Grail's silence endured, untouched, untamed. Beyond the battlefield, secret societies wove the Grail into the fabric of their mysticism. The Freemasons, guardians of ritual and geometry, envisioned it as Enlightenment's flame. And the shadowy Priory of Sion, along with other esocratic circles, claimed its legacy, layering the cup in veils of symbol and secrecy. Their rites, cloaked in allegory, reimagined the Grail not as a relic, but as a revelation, yet always just beyond reach. In the modern age, the pursuit grows stranger. Conspiracy and crypto history spin tales of grails hidden beneath Roslyn Chapel, smuggled across oceans, even forged by alien hands. Untethered from tradition, these myths reflect not faith but fixation. Yet, in their fever, they unveil a deeper wound. When the sacred is sought as conquest, it becomes a mirror of greed. The Grail, meant to heal, now ignites madness. In the grasp of empires and dreamers alike, it twists, no longer a cup of grace, but a trophy of ruin. Its light dimmed by desire, its call unanswered by hearts that do not kneel. In the clamor of a world unmoored, the Holy Grail dims, its whisper drowned by the roar of progress. Once a beacon that stirred knights and kings, it now lingers at the margins, a relic of fading faith. The sacred, once woven into life's rhythm, has unraveled, its threads replaced by the cold weave of reason and haste. What remains when the divine is reduced to dust-covered tomes and silent stones? The modern era, relentless in its march, has stripped the world of reverence. Cathedrals stand hollow, their arches echoing with footsteps that no longer pause to pray. Relics sit behind glass, sanctity reduced to labels and skepticism. The Grail, once a vessel of divine mystery, is now a footnote, its awe dissected by scholars and dismissed by cynics. Secularism, in its quest for clarity, has cast the sacred as superstition, leaving the soul adrift in a barren landscape. Where we once lifted our hearts to heaven, we now chase the fleeting, trading eternity for immediacy. Speed governs this age, a pulse too fast for stillness. Screens flicker with false gods, each demanding worship before vanishing into the void. Distraction reigns, severing the thread that once tied the present to the eternal. This belief has settled in, a quiet cynicism that mocks the very idea of a quest for the divine. The Grail is scoffed at, the soul's longing silenced beneath the clamour of convenience. And yet, beneath the noise, a hunger endures. In the quiet corners of the heart, where no machine can reach, the longing for the sacred persists. The Grail, though forgotten by the world, endures in the soul's depths, its call faint but unyielding. Modernity may bury it beneath steel and glare, but the spirit feels its absence, a quiet ache in the shadows of skyscrapers and in the silence of starless nights. Though veiled by disbelief, the Grail remains, a flicker of the everlasting within us. What world is this, where the sacred lies buried, yet refuses to die? The Grail is not gone, only waiting. Its radiance lingers in the souls of hidden chambers. To forget it is to forget the divine that still calls us today, a whisper beneath the noise, urging us to seek what lies beyond the fleeting, where the eternal waits for those who dares to listen. The Holy Grail is no gilded cup, no relic lost to time. It is the ache for God, a yearning etched into the soul, a call to purity no shadow can touch, and a quest for wholeness no wound can break. Not buried in distant lands, not seized by knight or king, the Grail is a divine spark, lit in the heart's silent depths, unbound and unyielding. This is no journey through wastelands or Camelot's halls, but through the hidden terrain of the spirit. Here, pride gives way to humility, and the self dissolves in the light of grace. The Grail calls not to the mighty, but to the meek, to those who kneel not at altars of stone, but in the quiet of their own hearts. It is the surrender of ambition, the shredding of desire, the courage to seek what lies beyond the veil of flesh. And in that stillness, the divine is not found as an object, but as origin. Every story has whispered this truth, each one a thread in the divine tapestry, from the hand that shaped the world, to the lyre that mourned in hell's silence, from the stone that struck a giant to the hooves that haunt the midnight road, from the crocodilian's ancient gaze to the blades raised beneath heaven's eye, from fire that raised empires to the blood that built them. Each tale a step towards this flame. The Grail is not the end, but the beginning, not a vessel to hold, but a fire to become. And in that fire exists a beacon that does not fade, a promise that does not falter. It is the flame that guides through doubt, through chaos, through centuries of searching. And in its glow, the heart finds rest, the spirit a home. For the Grail is a quest for God, and that journey begins where all others end, in the soul's surrender, where the divine spark ignites, and the mortal becomes one with the everlasting. In a world grown still, the sacred flickers like a fading ember. The path behind is strewn with fragments, echoes of conquest and lament, of faith and fall, of wonder buried beneath the weight of haste. We have spoken of gods and ghosts, of blood and belief, of myths that never truly died. And now, at the edge of it all, we ask, what light can heal a world that has forgotten how to kneel? The answer is not in relic or rite, but in remembrance. The Holy Grail was never meant to be held. It was meant to be lived. It is the grace we carry unknowingly, the silence that speaks when all else fails. The quest was never about finding the Grail. It was about becoming it. And so, the journey ends where it was always leading, not to a treasure buried, but to a truth revealed. The true longing, true story, and true God. We were never searching for the sacred. We were the flame all along, and in that burning, the sacred was never lost. Thank you for watching.